Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 12, Episode number 73. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us for this Wednesday show, Steelers Edition. And Dave, when the Steelers play Monday night, the week moves fast. We're already in Wednesday here thinking about this Ravens game Sunday afternoon. Obviously, another must-win game for Pittsburgh, and they need to get help along the way. But still want to talk about what happened on Monday night's game and, of course, talk about what Mike Tomlin had to say during his Tuesday press conference. Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, what day is it? Man, I found something new to worry about this week too, and it is going back through that all 20. Are they going to take that sack away from T.J. Watt and give it to Minkah Fitzpatrick? We'll find out today, I think.
On the slide? Yeah. Well, first of all, it's definitely a sack because Baker slid, before the line of scrimmage. So I know some people were debating, is that even should be considered a sack at all? It should be. It's just a question of who you give it credit to, but hopefully they stick with Watt.
Yeah, I think Wednesday is the day that they look at that kind of stuff there. And I was going back through and looking last night. I said, man, I wonder if they're going to take that thing, that sack away from him and give it to maybe because I guess you could make an argument that Minkah might have been the closest player at that point, but I think you'd be splitting hairs at that. I was a bit surprised at first when they gave the credit to him, during the game there. But anyway, that's first world blogger problem.
And right? Really, it should be Montrevious Adams' sack. He's the one who got the pressure, flushed him out. So if anyone gets the sack, it's the big boy.
He was scooting. Why did you see that clip?
Yeah,
I pulled that. No, nice club on that play against Wyatt. Wyatt as well too. And Wyatt's a Pro Bowler this year on top of it there. And boy, that guy to get him like they got him off the practice squad of the Saints and all like that. Quite a talented guy, got a good get off and all, and like that. And as we mentioned, I think in the show the other day there, one of those few guys that you would kind of expect them to try to go after and try to re-sign during the offseason.
For sure. I like Mike Tomlin's response yesterday about what made Adams' transition to Pittsburgh so easy. And Tomlin said with a laugh, everyone knows where the A-gap is at. It's pretty easy to keep the coach and teach. And so Adams, though, has played really well.
Absolutely. And hopefully, look, one game left here. Anything can happen. I know the odds are very, very low. I think the Jaguars are 15.5-point dogs, and they risk losing the first round draft pick, I think, as well too. Should they mess up and win and all? But hope is hope, right?
Yeah, there's a chance. And it's the NFL, and we've seen crazy upsets all season, so you never know what could happen. But, Dave, let's start here with the Steelers injury report. Mike Tomlin having his press conference. A couple new names popped up on the list that were not mentioned after Monday's win over the Browns. Players dealing with injuries coming out of that Browns game. Dan Moore with an ankle. Trey Turner with a knee. Turner was the one name Tomlin mentioned in his Monday post-game presser, and safety Terrell Edmunds with that dreaded groin injury. I know Moore got dinged up middle of the game, was kind of limping, and so he powered through it. So we'll go back and see where that play happened exactly. And then Edmunds with the groin again. Turner did not finish that game. Moore and Edmunds did. So we'll watch those guys throughout the week. And then beyond that, looks like Kendrick Green's going in the right direction. And Tomlin said hopefully the COVID guys will come back and they'll figure out who's ready to play. And from a conditioning standpoint, and still several players on the COVID list. There are a couple guys did come off the COVID list yesterday, though they were all practice squad wide receivers.
Right. And we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed and see which of those, what is it? I think 6 guys, right? You got Schobert, you got Bush, you got Millette, you got Zach Banner, Wormley, and Anthony McFarland Jr. So a healthy list of 6 there, and you would expect at least some of those guys to come off this week. And then, hopefully their conditioning is up to par. They'll probably get roster exemptions again on, 24-hour roster exemptions on some of those guys like they did Isaiah Buggs last week there. But Isaiah Buggs ended up being inactive there. And, the thing with Wormley as well, too, was he had kind of a pre-existing injury a groin with him too, right? Heading into that. So that'll be something coming out once he does get off that list to see if he's able to practice and all. So I would imagine it's going to be a pretty healthy first injury report list when it comes out later on today after practice is complete. I would imagine Ben Roethlisberger is going to be on that with this team playing on Monday. I think Tomlin, in so many words, said we're going to take it easy on some guys at the beginning of the week. So I would imagine you could see guys like, guys with the concussed birth certificates like Cam Hayward and a few, Joe Hayden and I don't know, Minka, some of those guys probably rested. So there going to be probably a lot of names on that list later today. And then by Friday, should be able to sort through whoever we think may or may not be able to play.
And just to dial in the moves the Steelers made yesterday, none of them high impact, but were nothing if not thorough. Wide receivers Anthony Miller, Steven Sims, and Tyler Vaughn were restored off the practice squad COVID-19 list. The team released punter Cameron Nizelik and kicker Sam Sloman, and also outside linebacker Jacob Teody Marnier, something like that, was signed by the Panthers off the Steelers practice squad. So he's now gone and going to Carolina for week 18 and potentially a futures contract. So I wish a team would keep the kicker on the practice squad just in this COVID world. I just think it's the smart thing to do, especially with everything that happened with Harvin and his personal, issues, the death of his father. But, beyond that, good to see some guys coming off of COVID. And, we'll see who the punter is going to be this week, Waitman or Harvin. We both kind of suspect it's going to be Waitman to finish this thing out.
Well, the thing too to think about, and obviously he doesn't do it full time, is Waitman can place kick if you got into a situation as such. I think that was one of the pluses with him, but who knows who might circle back by the end of the week too, right?
True.
Maybe they'll do something on Saturday to kind of protect themselves in that area. Who knows who might go on the COVID list, on the practice squad COVID list here, but some of these guys we hardly even knew, right? They're a name that just passes through the transaction sheet. A lot of these guys here, and obviously with the end of the season coming, I think we'll see a lot of these names again because they'll immediately sign, whoever usually sticks on the practice squad. If not all those guys will wind up on futures contracts, and probably another, 5 or 6 will be signed right after the season as well too. And I have a feeling a lot of those names will be at least familiar to us, having maybe spent some time on the practice squad throughout the season.
Definitely. So we'll see those futures contracts come in whenever the Steelers season comes to an end or shortly thereafter. Again, Mike Tomlin holding his press conference on Tuesday, and a couple interesting things to note here. One of the more interesting things was talking about the future of the center position for Sunday's game against Baltimore. Who's going to start at center? What was Tomlin's overall assessment of J.C. Hassenauer's performance, who filled in for Kendrick Green, who dressed but did not start or play in this game due to a calf injury? On Hassenauer, Tomlin said, quote, "I liked a lot of what I saw last night, not only in his play, but in his communication. He did a nice job of communicating with the group and identifying people both in the run and in the pass game. Did not commit to who the starting center will be on Sunday against Baltimore. Said the decision was pretty easy for the Browns game because Green really did very little in practice that week. And so Green probably going to ramp up that practice participation this week." But, Tomlin saying, quote, "It'll probably be more difficult for us this week." But he'll said they'll make the decision that puts the team in the best position to have a good offensive output and thus win the game. I think we both would agree based off of that J.C. Hassenauer should start. I don't think he was tremendous in Monday night's game, but I think he was the steadier, more consistent player by a little bit at least. And so I would go with Hassenauer. We'll see what the Steelers decide.
And I think kind of trying to contextualize what Mike Tomlin said and trying to drill it down and in between the lines kind of stuff. It felt like he was trying to tell us that JC might be the center there. Now, he didn't come out and say it. He said it's going to be a more difficult decision because he expects Kendrick Green to start working back from that calf injury and actually practice, probably even starting today here on that. And I think we even said during the podcast, when was it? I guess yesterday, right? Or day before. Yesterday. JC wasn't JC's not going to go to the Pro Bowl or get any All-Pro votes based on the way he played. He was on the ground on a couple of plays. And so in fact, the TD run that Najee Harris had, he ended up, I think, being on the ground on that play there. But to me, just from the tape and the eye test, JC's play in that game was singularly better for one game than I think Kendrick Green has played all season.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hassenauer was playing better than where Green was at, but I just try to think about if Green would have played that game the way that Hassenauer would have played that game, I think we would have come away just saying that Green was just okay, and it wasn't a whole lot different for being on the ground sometimes. I mean, I think Hassenauer did a better job occasionally being able to base block and move guys in the run game. So I think it was a bit better, but going back to the tape, I don't think it was quite as good as I thought it might have been whenever I was watching the game live or whenever you see this team run for $190. So still, I would go with Hassenauer, but I don't think the performance was quite as. I think just across the board, honestly, the offensive line was better and competent, but I think Najee Harris was like the big reason why this team ran for $190 and why Harris ran for 188.
I think you see on several plays more push up in the middle, explosion off of the line and getting, a yard and a half, 2 yards into that Browns defensive front. That's one thing that stuck out to me specifically, especially about the interior of that line. And with JC, you don't see him getting shocked back like you did Kendrick Green. Now, did he get shocked back in that game? Absolutely. Look, nobody should frame this at all as, well, J.C. Hassenauer should be the Steelers center next season, or J.C. Hassenauer is a lot to make the roster next season. No, I think you got to look at this as a game by game situation right now. And right now, I think JC is the better of the two when it comes to the center. And as I said in my terrible take yesterday, I understand maybe Tomlin maybe trying to protect the young psyche of Kendrick Green and all like that, but this is the NFL, man. It's your tape is your resume, and that's what keeps you a job gives you a job week to week here. If you're not the best player for the position, then you need to sit on the sideline and watch the guy who was better at that position for the week. And to me, that's what it boils down to this week and this week alone. He has all offseason. They're not going to cut him, obviously. He has all offseason to work on his technique, to work on all the things, aspects of the game that he needs to get better at. But this needs to be looked at what is going to happen Sunday in Baltimore. And in my opinion, that person Sunday in Baltimore should be JC.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there was just less volatility, less big negative plays from Hassenauer in that game, where Green will have some plays that are really ugly. And I think Hassenauer is on the ground bet. I think he is limited. I think his best position, though, is center, and he just gave you more veteran type of presence, where it was just a little less of the roller coaster. And so in a big, still must-win game, Week 18, I can go Hassenauer. We'll see what the team ultimately decides, because they have had a lot of faith in Green, so far this year, to kind of, stand by him and continue to play him despite his, predictable rookie year struggles.
And look, I mean, here's another decision that I think you got to kind of make. What are you going to do with if Dotson is healthy enough? You're bringing him back off that list this week, right? When was he activated? Or back resuming practice? Last week was his second week resuming practice, right? So this would be the third. This would be the third week of him resuming practice. So I would assume that you would have to make a decision with him by the Tuesday or Wednesday, first week of the playoffs, if you made it that far. So maybe technically they don't have to make the decision with him this week on Saturday for the 21-day window. I don't think. When did he resume practice?
December 22nd was the day he was designated to return.
All right. So how many days is that? What are we looking at days here? Today's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So they don't have to decide on him. Obviously, he can resume practicing right now. And even I would guess by Saturday, if they didn't want to activate him, they don't have to. And then if something should happen, they make the playoffs, then you could activate him the following week.
Right. So, I mean, obviously last week of the season, unless the team, gets all the help it needs for the playoff run, then it might become sort of moot, but hopefully Dawson can get back. I will say, though, going back to the tape, I think your comment was spot on yesterday, Dave, that John LeGlue had a really good game. Maybe I think easily his best game of his, short NFL career.
Yeah. And I mean, look, what did he have to top there? I mean,
that's true, but like
but it was
baseline,
right. It was noticeably. Look, like I said, the whole interior portion of that line seemed better, and then I think guys, a couple of your tight ends, I think Rader and Gentry had pretty decent, at least from a run blocking aspect. Game, and I thought your tackles did okay as well too. And you throw that in with Najee being more deliberate, I thought, with his runs and doing a great job of pressing the offensive line, and a lot of we talk in big terms like that. What probably a lot of people don't understand. When you press line, you're actually pressing. You're really kind of mirroring the defender, maybe the second level defender, or a defensive lineman that's maybe engaged, and trying to make them commit one way or the other. So the closer that a running back can get to, let's say, the line of scrimmage there without committing. It makes it easier once he does make a cut to maybe move that player out of the hole there. So a lot of times in the evaluation, especially with the TV tape, sometimes it's hard to kind of see that stuff when evaluating running backs. But good running backs that can continually press the line of scrimmage to make guys flash in a hole one way or the other if they're engaged, or a linebacker kind of get closer to the line of scrimmage where maybe they get kind of commit to a gap, might get hung up. That's an added aspect to running backs being good. And I thought Najee did that on several of those runs. And look, there's nothing new. He did it at Alabama as well too. But that played into it. Yeah, there was a lot of times where he was hitting the hole where it looked like, okay, maybe he's going to get a yard or two here, and he ends up 5 yards on the ground, and that was one of the things that I think I pointed out the most coming out of the last two games against Tennessee and KC is, man, go get the yards that are there and then fall forward, and you might have another 2 or 3 yards, or you might break an arm tackle and you might end up in the end zone there. And now, is it 181 of 188 after contact? I didn't count them specifically, but I trust next gen stats on that stat there. But there were a lot of yards after first contact for him, and this team had a 70% run success rate, Alex, on their runs, and obviously most of those 30 runs, I think, 28 runs belong to one Najee Harris. So a super, super high success rate when it came to runs by the running backs in that game against the Browns. And as we mentioned, anytime you're over 50%, that's good. And to have it in the 70% category, there's nothing wrong with 5, 6, 7 yard runs.
No, nothing at all. Yeah, I thought, being able to press is that creating about a running back. It's not all about, breaking a tackle. It can be about, creating and moving guys and pressing the hole and things like that. And honestly, going back through a large portion of this tape, I kind of buy that 181 or 188 coming after contact for Harris, because he was doing a lot of that where he was winning one-on-one battles with linebackers. You think about some of the long runs he had. The 32-yarder was, Anthony Walker's free in the hole. He beats him to the edge and makes the corner miss and gains the edge on that play. The 37-yarder, there's a linebacker that shoots through free, and he's able to burst away from him and break through the hole into the open grass. And so a lot of that was, I thought, Harris winning some of those one-on-one battles. But just to go back to LeGlue briefly, I thought his anchor and pass pro was excellent. And from being a bigger, taller guy, at least that leverage can be an issue. But I thought he was able to sit and anchor and handle some of those power rushes better than he has all season. Stayed square more often. So you're just seeing a guy that's probably learning, getting experience, and getting better.
I think, like I said the other day on the podcast here, I think you at least you come out of this season with a guy that I think you're pretty comfortable with, maybe from a depth aspect. Maybe this is the guy that can become the new Doug Legursky, type. Obviously, he doesn't have any experience at center, but he has worked on that element. He's even played some tackle, I think, as well too. So maybe he can be that 5+ player guy that's the 8th offensive lineman, on your roster there. So I don't think we've seen the last of John LeGlue after this game. I would expect I'm expecting really to have a real legitimate chance of being on the 53-man roster, the initial 53-man roster next year.
Yeah, he'll certainly compete, and that versatility is going to help him out in a big way. To me, it's probably the primary reason why he stuck around this team on the practice squad. And then there were injuries by this time, and then got elevated because he can wear a lot of hats, can play basically everything except for left tackle. At least that's what he did this summer with the Steelers. But anyway, back to Tomlin here in his Tuesday presser, so we'll see who the starting center will be on Sunday. I suspect it'll be Hassenauer, but again, we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of the run game, though, overall, asked about Chris Morgan's impact, his first game as the Steelers' head offensive line coach, replacing Adrian Clem, who left for the Oregon job. And Tomlin said, quote, "I thought he had a tremendous impact." Talking about Chris Morgan, I don't want to overstate it. Obviously, he ran the offensive line room and made critical decisions regarding the division of labor and the formulation of the plan. He'll do similar things this week. Did note, though, it was just one game. He'll have to replicate that and have success in this finale against one of the top run defenses in football in Baltimore. But again, Chris Morgan, you run for $188 for Harris, $190 as a team. That is a good debut as the head offensive line coach.
Look, that's not going to go into the annals of look at the developments made in pro football running games, but when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers these last 2 seasons, that's the rich cracker of it, for sure. I mean, we haven't seen a running performance like that in some time, and obviously 2 explosive runs, not only explosive runs, but well over 20 yards, and one of them ended up in the end zone there. So anytime you do that, you're going to get people to stand up and take notice there. Now go do it again.
Right.
That's because I don't think either one of us have much optimism when it comes, other than the running game being able to help the passing game in some elements, play action, yada, yada, but even though you don't need a good running game to help in play action, having teams maybe have it, to think twice maybe about playing 2 deep safeties and all like that because of what you put on tape against the Browns. Maybe we'll see what kind of carryover effect that does have. But more than anything, and obviously with the odds of the playoffs not being great for the Steelers, just end on a great note here, man. Just to have some optimism that, okay, maybe they can get this thing figured out with another piece or 2 on that offensive line. And maybe Morgan can be the guy that gets this offensive line and running game out of the bottom, I would say bottom third, but they've been a lot lower than that. Bottom 32nd.
Yeah, I'll take bottom third. Like at this point, I'll take 27. No, I think Morgan will be the favorite for the offensive line coach job in the offseason. They'll interview external guys. It won't be, like Sean Surratt, whenever Munchak left, it was just like, all right, Sean, you're the guy. Like there was just no discussion, no interviews. It was just, next man up kind of mentality. And that didn't, work out the way Pittsburgh hoped and planned. So they'll interview guys for sure. But at this point, I'd be pretty surprised if Morgan was not the head offensive line coach for, partially continuity's sake and, his experience as a head offensive line coach before. It's not like this is his first rodeo coaching a group and leading a group overall. The results from Monday night and, I don't know how it would work. If you didn't hire Morgan to be your head guy, would he leave or would he go back to being the assistant? I don't know how that dynamic would work either, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, things can change. You interview a guy and he blows you away. You never know what could happen, but I strongly suspect that Morgan will be the head guy in 2022.
I think I would lob off a phone call to one Kevin Mawai, though, the assistant offensive line coach with the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, boy, what a unit they have over there. Look at what their depth's been able to do with, 2 games ago, they were missing 3 or 4, I think, of their starters in that game, and still did fairly well up front there. Obviously those guys weren't the starters, but I think I'd lob off a phone call around the league to a couple of guys, and Mawai was one that stuck out to me. Look, he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, right? He's played guard and center at the NFL level. That is a guy that I think I would contact at the very least as part of the interview process.
Yeah, I think there's some worthwhile candidates out there for sure. And, I would assume even if Morgan is the head guy, they'll bring in an assistant as they have been, since, Surratt became Munchak's right-hand man. So they'll that way like to have two offensive line coaches to coach such a big group. Usually, practice will take either the, interior offensive lineman, the guards in the center. One guy will take those guys, the other guy will take the tackles and work with them, so they're maximizing the limited time that they have. So there should be at least an addition to the offensive line coaching room, whether that be head or assistant. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, what else did went down a couple of rabbit holes here. What else did Mike Tomlin have to say?
Tomlin asked about Ahkello Witherspoon and kind of his path to playing for the Steelers and why it took him, until the last basically month of the season to see consistent playing time, and said, got on the moving train and had to, learn and get acclimated to this defense. And then, as you've talked about, and Tomlin said it, Witherspoon's not a very accomplished special teams player, more of a cover corner only. And so he had to wait for there to be an opportunity to see more defensive snaps. And that happened with Joe Hayden's foot sprain. And so that kind of opened the door for Witherspoon to get more consistent time. Of course, James Pierre struggling as well, getting benched, and that allowing more reps for Witherspoon as well. As we talked about on Tuesday, Dave, he's really played well and probably made himself quite a bit of money over the last 4 to 6 weeks.
Boy, and isn't that something rare when it comes to Pittsburgh Steelers and cornerbacks late in the season, guys that you kind of either acquired. Now, obviously, Joe Hayden was a guy you acquired, I think, partially through a preseason after he was cut by the Browns there. But and look, things weren't looking great when it came to Witherspoon through first half of the season. I mean, inactive list. We knew why he was on the inactive list, and it's pretty much for all the things that Mike Tomlin just said. He was not an asset on special teams, and that's the main thing that's going to get you a helmet on the back end of the cornerback depth chart there. So he wasn't endeared to one Danny Smith, and then just not. You got to have a certain amount of inactives every week based on your roster, and that's what kept him out of the helmet there. Now that he has had a helmet, Mike Tomlin in so many words said he's going to keep that helmet. So good for him. And as we talked the other day, there are a few guys here that have been after the fact kind of guys that makes you kind of wonder, are they going to be able to retain him, because they have put good stuff down on film, and not only one Witherspoon, but Montravius Adams has as well too. I thought he really did so a few more good things than I'm just looking at this right now. Come across the wire. Joe Mixon tested positive today for COVID and will be out for Sunday's game against the Browns. And I think you got a good chance that Nick Chubb might be kind of held out of that game with whatever he injured during the game against the Steelers. So I think you could have an instance here, Alex, where if Najee Harris gets enough yardage here, and I don't think he's too far behind either one of those, you could end the season with Najee Harris as the second leading rusher in the NFL behind Jonathan Taylor. Now, obviously not anywhere in the close neighborhood of Jonathan Taylor, but it goes to show you that the attrition that happens at the running back position. Heck, I think even Derrick Henry's like still sixth in the league in rushing. And when's the last time he saw the field there? But that's why Joe Mixon caught my eye there, because I think him and Chubb are 2 and 3. I forget who's ahead of who, but if both those guys don't play, I know there's a legitimate chance that Najee could pass both those guys and become the second leading rusher in the NFL this season.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers now. Mixon second place at 12:05, Chubb third place at 12:01, Harris fourth place 11:72, and so Harris would just need, let's call it 40 yards to move into second place if both of those guys do not play. And Bengals have really not much to play for, I don't think, in this game, so they're not going to probably push the issue. And obviously the Browns are shutting things down with Baker sitting out this game, and Chubb, I wouldn't be surprised if he sat out. It was very limited overall. So Najee Harris could it's a volume, it's an attrition kind of thing, but you take it for sure.
Yeah, and look, I mean, props to him at a position that goes through usually a running back missing some games at some point. Knock on wood, here's them staying healthy, especially with the workload that he received throughout the season here. He has stayed on the field, and your best your best ability sometimes is your availability, and he's been available every week for the Steelers. So that I don't know what caught my eye, but where were we with Tomlin? Oh, yeah, Witherspoon and Adams.
Yeah. Again, both guys have played well. I think, both have been certainly meaningful contributions. Witherspoon's been the bigger surprise just because it felt like it was a waste, for the first, 10 weeks of the season. But, we knew that his value was not going to be the gunner. That's a Justin Lane kind of thing. He's going to be more prioritized as the cover corner. You could just hope he can, keep that consistency though in his game. You just kind of worry about he's been a little up and down in his career. He's on a hot streak right now. There's just maybe some concern there about, will you get what version of him you're going to get from week to week or season to season. But long cover corner who can run and play man coverage. And those are traits that Pittsburgh needs right now.
Yeah, I got a little bit of pushback on Twitter the other day during that game. I do think they should try to re-sign Witherspoon. Yes. But, man, be careful with the guaranteed money because we don't have a really large section of tape on him just yet, and there have been instances where he can get run away from, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that the sample size is the concern because right. It's been impressive tape. I don't want to take away anything from what he's done, but you're paying a decent amount of money for a couple weeks of play, and you're just always a little nervous about limited bodies of work. And you hear about the teams saying, "Oh, we needed to show some more urgency." You're just a little worried about attaching too much money to a guy that off of just a couple of games.
Right. But on the flip side, too, he has made money this week. Yeah. And as we talked about the other day, I mean, all it takes is one team, right? And man, when you're down digging in the bottom of the free agent barrel, not that he's free agent barrel, but like I stated the other day, when it comes to especially under 30 up and coming, unrestricted free agent cornerbacks, I think we'll see obviously how he played. Man, if he gets an interception or two in this final game against the Ravens, oh Lord, I don't know. I might make him inactive just to maybe help keep his volume down. Obviously, they're not going to do that because they need to win. You can't get into the playoffs at all if you don't win this game here. But it has been positive, and it will be interesting to see how the Steelers attack him during the offseason. I don't think there's any way around it. I think you have to, because especially if you don't bring back, what are you doing with Hayden? Do you even bring him back you can't bring back Hayden and pay him less than a guy like Witherspoon. I'll tell you that. You can, but you can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you bring back Joe Hayden. And I think Hayden, based on some of the stuff he said on Instagram, is probably assuming he'll be moving on. I mean, I love Joe Hayden. He's played well for this team, the veteran presence, the run stopping, the big time kind of moments. But the guy, just his legs aren't there anymore. And I can't pay a corner whose legs are going out, any sort of money at all.
All right. So if you have Sutton, okay, if you have, let's say you re-sign Witherspoon. I mean, Justin Lane's not long for, right? Joe Hayden's probably not long for. I suppose you could do something. I mean, what is Trey Norwood to you?
The future slot corner of this team, backup safety.
Okay. And it probably wouldn't take much to have Millette back competing for a spot, right?
Sure. And then James Spear will be back. Obviously, his season hasn't gone the way that he hoped, but he'll be back at least.
I guess what I'm angling at here is if you're able to do this thing right, I think we can start eliminating possibly cornerback being the first round draft pick.
Yeah, from a first round standpoint, that'd be pretty unlikely given the other needs, but certainly you're probably going to add there at some point to give yourself some depth and more competition, just in the way that they added Witherspoon for depth, which proved to be extremely useful and important by this time in the season.
But we would agree that anytime after the first round, obviously, but probably eliminates first round cornerback at that point.
Yeah, I would say so if all those things occur. But, that's such a far out thing. I haven't really started picking and choosing positions or anything like that. And obviously the tea leaves of where this team goes and its pro day circuits will kind of clue us in on what they're thinking.
All right, what else did Mike Tomlin say?
I think that was the bulk of it, Dave. Let me go back through the comments of what he had to say. said, the playoff hopes are slim, but Tomlin said, I'm capable of talking myself into anything. So ever the eternal optimist is Mike Tomlin. Again, Jacksonville will need to upset the Colts. The Chargers and Raiders will have to avoid a tie, and the Steelers will have to beat the Ravens. If all three of those things happen, Pittsburgh will be the 7th seed.
And unfortunately, the last I looked last night, the Jaguars are 15.5-point underdogs. It'd be nice if the Colts had something sewn up here, but they gotta win this game, and a tie doesn't help the Steelers either, So talking about Jacksonville tying, so right. Yeah, that's where we're at with this thing.
I think it's probably it for Tomlin. Anything I'm missing, Dave, that is pressing and needs to be talked about from him?
I don't have the transcript in front of me, so I'll rely on you.
All right, that's a risky thing there. But Dave, there were some awards handed out at the PMC Sports Rooney Complex today. The Joe Green Award and the Chief Award. The Joe Green Award given to the top rookie of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That goes to Najee Harris. And the Chief Award for the player who has the best relationship with the media. That goes to Cam Hayward, who has won it now for, I believe, a third time in his career. Najee Harris winning it this year for Pittsburgh for the Rookie of the Year award. So no surprises there for both, and both well earned.
Absolutely, boy. Every week Cameron Hayward's there, and doesn't look like he gets disgusted or a lot of times he unfortunately has to say a lot of the same things, get off blocks and those kind of things there. But I mean, you couldn't draw up a Steelers defensive captain, I don't think, any better. That guy gets every aspect of it. He's great off the field, and he is his foundation is one that you and I support. Every sack that a lot of people don't realize, but every sack, and I think we've done this for I think this is the third year now. Every sack that Cam Hayward registers, we give $100 to Hayward House, to his organization. Obviously, he's in the running again for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I mean, what's not to like about this guy? Every week on the tape, he sticks out as being a guy always running after the football and showing grown man feats of strength, if you will. So, I think it was probably either going to be him or Ben winning this award, and I think Ben won it last year, and I'm not surprised one bit that Cameron Hayward won the award this year, and not surprised one bit that Najee Harris won the Rookie of the Year award, although I think at one point you could have made somewhat of an argument that Pat Freiermuth was pressing him there for the award. I think the best thing overall is that there was maybe some argument to be had about those two being neck and neck for the Rookie of the Year award, because that meant both of them were contributing for you there. But it's very rare that the Steelers' first round draft pick or first pick that they make, because obviously they did not have a first round draft pick a couple years ago, but their first selection usually is the one that wins the Joe Green Performance Award, and not surprised one bit that it's Najee Harris this year.
Right, and with Hayward, just the perfect quintessential Steeler. If you built a Steeler or an NFL player in the lab, it became Hayward. Just from an on-field perspective, off-field perspective, the effort, the talent, obviously, the professionalism, great wins, ugly losses. Hayward's out there talking to the media, and I'm sure he probably does not want to do that at times, especially in those losses, but you got to respect the guy who treats the media with respect, and certainly appreciative of that. And then, Najee Harris, well deserved for sure. Can you name the other Steelers running backs to win the Joe Green Award? It's been given out since '84, Dave. So can you name? There are three of them, three other ones.
Oh Lord, Rashad, I think, won it, didn't he?
No, Mendenhall. He got his shoulder
got hurt.
broken by Ray Lewis.
He got hurt that year. That's right.
And this does not include fullbacks. So sorry to Dan Kreider and whoever the other fullback was, John Whitman, the one. And just true running backs. There were three others. One should be obvious. One's a pretty recent name.
Franco.
No. Well, the award hasn't been given out since '84, so 84 or not. So one recent Steelers running back has won the award.
One recent Steelers running back.
Pretty well-known guy, good rap career out there in Tampa now.
Oh yeah, Le'Veon Bell. Okay.
Yeah, Bell won it in 2013. All right, do you want to give you the other two? Or do you want to guess the other two?
I'm cloudy this morning.
Bam Morris in '94.
Oh, okay.
And here's one that I would have never guessed. Warren Williams in '88. Yeah, not a good year for the Steelers rookie class. He had 409 yards rushing his rookie season, and that was enough to apparently win the Joe Green Award. So there you go. Najee Harris, fourth running back to win it in Steelers history.
I tell you, one thing that unfortunately sticks out when I hear Joe Green Award that sticks out the most to me about that award is I think it was like 2008 that Patrick Bailey.
Hey, I like Patrick Bailey. Don't besmirch the good Duke's linebacker name.
That it got to that point though is what is the thing that sticks out to me the most when it comes to that award overall. When someone mentions that award, that's immediately where my mind goes is to Patrick Bailey in 2008.
Yeah.
I don't know
who
why
was in that 08 class. Was that Mendenhall? Mendenhall was 08. Yeah, Mendenhall was 08. Who else was in that? It was like Kevin Colbert's worst draft class for sure. Let's go down the rabbit hole here real quick, Dave, and see who was in that. Who was it? Bruce Davis, I think, was like the third round pick that year. Was that Limas? Was Limas 08?
Well, what do you find?
Let's see. Yeah, it was Mendenhall, Swede, Davis, Tony Hills, Dennis Dixon, Mike Humpel, who had an injury that rookie year, never really played, and then Ryan Mundy. Might have been one of the better players from that class with Ryan Mundy. So there you go.
Not a banner class there, but for some reason that always pops out when I hear that it's Patrick Bailey there. So
yeah,
Bam
Morris,
a
good player.
Bam Morris, Le'Veon Bell, and who was the other one? Warren Williams.
Warren Williams, yeah. There you go. All right, Dave. Also, speaking of awards, TJ Watt named AFC Defensive Player of the Week for Week 17. No surprise there with his 4-sack performance over the Browns. Third time this year he's been named AFC Defensive Player of the Week. And again, I mean, what more can you say about TJ Watt that has not already been said? Hopefully we get to say, though, Defensive Player of the Year award winner in a couple weeks from now.
Boy, he was just he was a man possessed. They talked about Ben Roethlisberger, talked about Najee Harris playing possessed. Watt did as well too in that game quite a bit. So one game left. Anything can happen, as we've talked about, and I think in several radio interviews this year, I've been asked, well, can Watt get there despite missing, say, this game with a groin injury or that game? I said, look, this is a guy that in any given game can get you 3 or 4 sacks. So anything is indeed possible with him, and man, just the pace that guy's career is on right now is just unreal. I mean, it's right up there, right with Watt. I mean, with White and his brother Watt there when it comes to sacks over the first 5 years or something along those lines there. So if he stays on that pace, oh Lord, look out. But I think there's a good chance that he could get to at least 2 sacks on Sunday against the Ravens.
Sure, yeah. Most sacks to a player's first 5 years in NFL history. Watt ranks 4th all time with 71. Only 3 ahead of him are Reggie White with 81. I look at these numbers, and Reggie White's career is just unbelievable.
It really is.
It just, especially the start, the first 5-6 years were just off the charts. JJ Watt, number 2, 74.5. Al Baker, it's unofficial. In 3rd place was 74. Watt, 4th place, 71. Deacon Jones with the famous head slap, 68.5 in 5th place. And so TJ Watt, again, 1 away from tying Strahan's record, 1.5 away from setting the official record. Al Baker unofficially holds the record with 23. But just Watt. Again, if this year is not good enough to win it, then I literally do not know what it would take to win the award.
Yeah, I don't either. And as we talked about the other day, when you talk about guys that can impact, I mean, be reasons week in and week out why you win a game, especially on the defensive side of football, that in my opinion speaks volumes. So I mean, we'll see. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and listen, Micah Parsons having an unbelievably good season.
Really is.
Literally a Lawrence Taylor-like type of season for a rookie. And I don't want to take away from him or even Myles Garrett or Donald, those guys. But, I mean, if you tie or set the sack record, that alone should be enough to get you the award, in my opinion.
You would think it's a 2-man race right now, right? Parsons and Watt, with Watt obviously being the favorite.
Yeah, and I think the fact that the road voters will look at this and say, obviously Parsons is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, so we'll give Parsons Rookie of the Year, and then we'll give Watt Defensive Player of the Year instead of giving Parsons both. Maybe that'll be a kind of a, internal calculation the voters are going to make.
All right, we'll see.
All right, anything else here from, let's see, any news of the day? Am I missing anything here as I kind of hem and haw around? I feel like I'm missing something.
We got all the transactions and all, right?
Yeah, the Steelers opening up as underdogs, right? 4-point underdogs to Baltimore in
Yeah,
week
I
18.
think that even moved to 5.5 yesterday as well too. So I don't think we know what's going to happen yet. I think Harbaugh has left open the door for Lamar Jackson to play. But I mean, just going by, I think from a week ago, some of the video that surfaced early in practice. I mean, to me, Jackson, the way he had that limp didn't look anywhere close. Now, I mean, is 75% Lamar Jackson worth putting out there?
I know the Ravens still technically have a playoff chance, so their odds are somehow slimmer than Pittsburgh's. They need like 4 or 5 things to happen in week 17. But Huntley has played reasonably well for them. Lamar with the ankle. Again, obviously I'm not following the Ravens as closely as I do Pittsburgh, but if I'm Baltimore, I'm starting Huntley. I'm not risking anything with Lamar Jackson in this, for essentially meaningless finale.
All right.
But we'll see what happens there. All right, Dave, let's get into our all-22 review. I haven't gone through the game as fully as I usually do by this point in the week, just given the whole Monday night game and kind of getting backed up on things, but I have gone through a good bulk of the game. Let's start with the Steelers defense here in this one. What stuck out to you when going back through the tape?
Let's see. Cam Hayward's a grown man. I think we already knew that, though. A couple of very good rushes in this game. I think we talked the other day about one of the ones with him looping back inside. I think Henry Mondo was the crasher on that one. And he almost impacts that. Hugely impacts that play. Another play just sits the guard down with a bull rush, just runs flat over him. Got his hands up quite a bit. Obviously had a couple of deflections in that game. He jumped out on the tape. I thought we already talked about Witherspoon. I think he does a great job in man coverage of having a good sense of when to break on the football. I think that was very, very noticeable. The Steelers did play a lot of man coverage in this game. That obviously, too, is noticeable. Robert Spillane, I don't think you want running with guys out in space. Spillane, I thought, did a very good job against the run, playing downhill and going sideline to sideline there, albeit what I have in my notes to ask you, what happened on that long run kind of early in the game there where he's going over and taking on the puller, and I think Hayden's over on it. Both of them not, who gave up the gap there? Yeah,
I mean, Hayden would have the edge on that. Spillane felt like he wasn't being at gaps on there, just trying to run and blow up the puller on that play to try to, spill that run back to the inside or force that run back to the inside. But I think just in general, Pittsburgh does poorly against those gap runs where those new gaps are created by multiple pullers, and they just have struggled, being able to replace those gaps and fill those gaps and stuff like that. I will say Marcus Allen, I think usually on those plays, the backside linebacker has to kind of work through the trash and be able not to get cut off there. And Marcus Allen got cut off there, and that didn't help matters. But yeah, Spillane felt like he wasn't playing that as gap sound as he needed to be, and him and Hayden got bunched up. And the second puller was free, just didn't even have to block anybody. So it felt a little weird there.
Yeah, it left open. I mean, like a 5-yard hole in there. Once Spillane committed to take on the first puller, and as you said, I think was it the tight end Bryant? I think coming through, it really didn't have anybody to block because, as you mentioned, Marcus Allen got cut off, and I think Edmonds was in the middle of the field.
They motioned that tight end away to bring Edmonds across. To move Edmonds, and then the tight end pulled, and Edmonds didn't come across well enough. And yeah, Pittsburgh just struggles against gap runs.
All right. Trying to think what else stuck out to me in this game. Loudermilk, I thought Loudermilk had another decent, kind of performance there. A couple times though, where I think you saw him on the ground. He'll have to clean that up.
Do you think that's a technique thing, or just, to me, it's just he's got to get stronger? I think it's just a strength. It's a little bit of leverage, but a lot of strength.
Yeah, and this goes back to a lot of the tape, from the preseason, I think, as well too. Sometimes he'll get torqued, he'll get twisted because he's just not strong enough yet. And I think if he's able to get a little bit stronger and engage and stay and keep square and not get twisted up, I think that's usually when he ends up in the ground on the ground. Now there was one time I think where he got slipped or something, went down at the feet of the guard. Hard to get a good view on that one there, but look, here's the thing with him. A, he's playing a lot more than what we imagined he'd play this year. B, he's playing a lot better than I thought he would play. And he's getting experience. I think he really has at least from what I can tell on the all 22 and not knowing each individual play call, I think he understands what he's doing and has a good grasp of adjusting to what, offensive sets. So I don't think he has to be told a lot of shifting and assignments and all like that. So I just think from an X's and O's standpoint, it feels like he's strong in that area. So, the thing with him now is just get stronger. Obviously we want to see him become, I think, a much better pass rusher, but I mean, for what he is and to what my thoughts were way back originally when they traded up for him, I think he's grown by leaps and bounds. I'm impressed with him so far, especially, as we head into the last week of the season. And I didn't think I'd be saying that when they traded up and drafted him. Yeah,
I'm with you. And I'm not surprised by, how quickly it seems he's taken to coaching and technical he is. I think he was well coached at Wisconsin, had a really good D-line coach who coached Aaron Donald at Pitt. Jim Leonard's one of the best DCs in college football and probably going to become the head coach of, I guess, Wisconsin at some point there. It seems like with, all the opportunities he's reportedly turned down. So, he's been well coached throughout his entire career. So that's not surprising to see him, be an overall technical player in the NFL. But yeah, the question there is just going to be, can he offer you something as a pass rusher? Or if he isn't, then that's going to limit his ceiling. But it's really taken to the Cam Hayward approach of getting his hands up with throwing lanes. He's got, I think, 3 deflections this year on not a ton of pass rush snaps. And so he's finding ways to impact the game without actually getting to the quarterback.
I tell you, you just look at it. If you just turned on the tape and didn't know anything about him, but knew kind of the history of the Steelers in that position, he definitely looks every bit of the part, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he looks like that 5'4" eye tech that they go after now with that build and all. And look, I think one of the big questions overall with him was, man, why was his weight so low? And looking back at the end of last season, I think that was mostly him just trying to get ready for the combine, and I think he did have kind of an ankle injury or something. I remember Dr. Mel talking about later on in that season, and also and the other thing that you and I talked about during the draft process is, man, there's just not that many kind of guys just from a measurable standpoint that fit what the Steelers normally look for at that position. And that was probably yet another reason why the team decided to trade up to get it. And look, he seems to be a good kid, soft-spoken kid. And if I'm him, I follow Cameron Hayward around like a puppy dog during the offseason.
Yeah, it seems like, Hayward's helped him out a lot from what I remember them talking about during the summer and throughout the course of the season. So any other thoughts here? I think you covered the defense pretty well. A lot of my thoughts the same. Just trying to look at my notes here quickly. Yeah, that's basically what I have so far. Cam Hayward continues to play great game. And then Alex Highsmith, I have a film room up on Highsmith today. He is really...
spin.
Yeah, against Jedrick Wills in particular. He beat Wills twice in Week 17 last year on a spin, and he couldn't get the sack either time, and he finally got the sack Monday night, so I was really happy to see that. And so I think overall his pass rush plan it was there last year. It was a lot more, let's just try a bunch of moves and kind of see what works. I think it's been a bit more refined this year, but that inside spin as that counter coming out of a 3-point stance, his hand on the ground, has been a really effective move. And so I thought he played a really strong game against Cleveland.
Thinking back to how we were hoping that he would progress this year, it was more him developing more of a plan, having more moves and counters there. I think he's tried to show some power, some speed to power stuff this year, and I think that there's some evidence. You would like, I think at this point, you would like to see that part of his game, of any part of his game. Right now, I would think that's still where he lacks the most is the flat out bull rush, power rush, and all. Obviously, like to see him keep his feet, I think, a little bit better when on some of those rip moves around the edge. He's still not able to kind of cut that the way kind of Watt does with that rip. So that's one other thing. I think just a better bull rush and being able to maybe work on kind of that ankle flexion with turning the corner and not losing his feet, because there's a lot of time he probably had 3 other sacks this year, Alex, if he didn't lose his feet around the corner.
Yeah, and so I guess the question is, how do you improve upon that? Is that a cleat issue? Is there a flexibility thing that you can do, or is that just playing in Heinz Field and you're going to slip sometimes because it's January and the field kind of sucks?
Yeah, I mean that's above my pay grade there, but I mean right. that's the thing that has stuck out the most to me this year is, okay, he's developed as a run defender, and we saw, I think, examples that even in his rookie season there. You would like to see him just get more technically sound with right and wrong shoulder sometimes, and then decisions where he gives up the edge, where he does, and where it at least looks like he's at fault. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about that aspect of it. I think he'll continue to grow. Look, you cannot put a tight end out there on him, and you cannot put a running back out there on him. At least he makes teams pay for that kind of stuff, which is good. And we saw that all the way back, dating back to this preseason. I think specifically there, definitely gives chase after the football. I think he's sound, backside crashing down, good explosion that way. He's got got like 8-9 tackles, I think, from the backside, that kind of stuff. They're good at shooting the gaps there. I really just think the only thing, like I said, is become a better. He uses a ghost move sometimes. He uses obviously that spin that you've highlighted several times. I think just get better with the speed to power stuff, and then work on kind of on that rip move of getting that corner better and be able to keep the feet in the process.
Yeah, well said. I think certainly the power has developed. I don't think it's ever going to be his calling card, but it's threatening tackles to convert that speed to power bull rush a lot more this year than last year.
He's a strong kid. I'm not. I mean, I don't think he's hit his ceiling when it comes to that. No, he's not, because of his size. He's not going to be that kind of low.
Yeah, he's not James Harrison.
Right. He's not going to have that style of bull rush there, but he's nicely put together for a Steelers outside linebacker now. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think he's hit his ceiling when it comes to that aspect of his game.
Sure. I don't think he's hit a ceiling in most respects. Still a second-year guy. So I think there's still, growth development in probably all areas. But I just, the sacks have come in bunches. And that's a good thing and maybe a bad thing sometimes as well, because I think all 6 of his sacks have come in 4 games this year. And it doesn't always tell you the whole story about pass rush production and stuff like that, obviously. But I think you're looking for just a bit more consistency, even from a pressure standpoint. Some of his pressure numbers this year are a little lackluster, at least prior to the Browns game. So, it hasn't quite been the gangbusters type of season I thought it would be if you just watched his summer, his preseason and camp alone. But I think he's come on strong here at the end. And again, he has been slowed by some groin injuries and stuff like that probably hindered him early in the season.
He is a guy that next year you would really expect to. I mean, with him and Watt, if those two guys did, the only way this defense is going to be good next year if those guys are able to consistently once again get out to the quarterback. I mean, Watt goes without saying that he'll be able to. You would expect Hayward along that line. We'll have to see what happens with Tuitt, obviously there. But the only way this defense is going to get back to the form it was if that front can. Obviously Alu and we'll have to see what else happens here. But if Highsmith can take that next step next season, that would be huge for that defense, I think.
Yeah, and bottom line is Highsmith has 6 sacks this season, and my stat predictions I did back before the year began, I had him down for 6.5, and so I think
nice.
That's a very reasonable, expected kind of number. And
I think I wondered. I think the big question that we had is, could he hit like 8, right?
Yeah, I think we kind of settled he's going to be in that 6 to 8 kind of range. And again, when TJ Watt's got 21 of them, I mean, there are only so many sacks that you can get, I suppose. So I think overall, a good season for Highsmith, finishing on a better note than how it started.
And as Mike Tomlin smartly pointed out, I think yesterday, sacks aren't everything. It's the pressure rates and all and impacting. I think I think Alex is making strides in that area. Next year should really be the year that we're looking. I mean, the guy's got enough games underneath his belt now, and another off season. Boy, those two could be, could definitely be a force next season. I mean, they already are now, but they could become probably the top pass rushing duo in the NFL potentially.
Yeah, right up there for sure. And it won't be like a Gretzky thing where it's like what brother combo has the most assists of all time. It's Wayne and his brother who has like one. It's where Highsmith is not contributing at the Watt level, but contributing, certainly pulling his weight as well. So, Dave, offensively, what were your thoughts here? The all-22, to me, what stuck out the most, and I mentioned this earlier, Najee Harris, just the effort, the pushing the pile. Again, I want to give some credit to the offense line. They were better. Harris couldn't do it all on his own, but to me, Harris did create so many of those yards, beating linebackers one-on-one through the hole, running his legs through contact, multiple guys having to take him down. That was a very much well-earned 188-yard performance.
What about the 5 snaps that Derek Watt played? I thought were super impressive.
Yeah, you posted the clip.
How many snaps did he play? Was it 5? It felt like it was 5. I thought I saw where it was 5.
I'm deferring to you on fullback snap counts here.
Let me pull it up here real quick.
Yes, 5. Good memory.
Yeah, that one on that long touchdown run, he got a 2-for-1 on that one there. But look, I mean, I know people are saying you're paying this guy this much money. Why aren't you using him more? Well, who are you going to pull off the field? If you have him on, you're not going to have 3 wide receivers on the field. Maybe we'll see a little bit more Watt. But I mean, it feels like 5 to 10 snaps a game is going to be about it with him. But that block specifically, that was the first play I went to. I went to the back end. I went to the last play. The last play on tape.
You Tarantino'd it.
Yeah, I went right to the ending there because I wanted to say, because you can't. I don't feel you get a very good sense on the TV tape of how that thing was blocked up overall there. But that stuck out to me. What else stuck out to me offensively? I think we already hit on most of it. I thought John LeGlue represented himself well overall. I don't think Myles Garrett was 100% in this game. I think that showed overall. I
think Moore struggled more than I thought he did watching back through the tape. I think he still had a better game than his first game, which was a low bar. And yeah, Garrett's got the groin injury, but Moore, I had on my winners list post game. I probably wouldn't keep him on that list if I was doing that after watching the all-22.
I'll probably get hate mail for this. I didn't think Ben had all that great of a game.
Who's arguing otherwise? Who could possibly argue that Ben had a good game?
I did. I mean, and I think you posted a nice break. I mean, he's still one of the better pump fakes in the game. Moved the linebacker right out of the way on a pass over to Milton Najee Harris on that. I thought he missed some throws. Obviously didn't get 100% cooperation from his wide receivers in this game. Deontay Johnson, a couple of drops. You missed a throw, I think, down over to the right side to Ray McLeod. Maybe one or two other instances, maybe where he should have pulled the trigger on some throws. Obviously didn't complete anything down the field. The wide receivers kind of lackluster overall period. Not a lot of yak going on there. And that's one thing that I thought, obviously with this offense this year, it becomes, and it's been that way for a while, throw short, run long. And there was a lot of throwing short, not a lot of running long in this one. And I mean, the tight end play, I guess, was okay. I thought there was some decent blocking going on with the tight end group overall. Freiermuth, nice catch and yak on one of his, but there wasn't, outside of Najee, running the football, there wasn't a lot to get excited about there.
Yeah, but at least there was a lot to get excited about with Harris and the run game overall. I just thought big picture, the free and easy yards that are usually there for Pittsburgh in a game weren't there. A lot of the boots, the guys that would go in the flat on some of those, play action kind of half rollouts. That was well defended by Cleveland. A lot of those throws were supposed to be ball out, get 5-6 yards to the tight end or receiver in the flat, and they weren't there. So I think that kind of disrupted some of the potential flow of this offense because of some of those, easy chunk plays there were not available in this game for whatever reason. That was kind of one of my bigger overall thoughts. in this game. Thought Leglue played well. His effort. I mean, this guy's definitely making the most of his first couple NFL starts. This guy just runs after the football 15 yards downfield. I got a couple clips I'll post later of him just kind of being around the end of plays and stuff like that. So it's been a good year for John Leglue. He's an engaged man. He got engaged, I think, right before the holidays, and he's got his first NFL starts. And it's been a good year for number 77.
The other thing I have in my notes is they were able to run against lighter box counts finally.
Yeah, it only took them until week 17, but they did it.
And it'll be interesting to see how maybe that influences a little bit. Now I thought the Browns did do a good job of kind of rotating into one, with one safety coming down. I thought there were a lot of times where you look at the all 22 view of it where you can kind of see some guys kind of cheat sometimes, and you say, okay, they're giving a too high look, but they're going to rotate. They're going to rotate down. I thought for the most part they did do a good job of kind of disguising that late in the snap process, and probably confused Roethlisberger a couple times that way. And some of the other times, though, when they did rotate the guys down, the Steelers had running plays against those, and they ended up fitting those well, and or Najee, beat the one guy that he had to beat, in those instances. And I thought Najee did a good job of explaining that the other night as well too after the game, because a lot of successes in running games, especially when it comes to explosive plays, is the fact that you want to get situations where you have your running back on one guy, and it is his job to win those one-on-one matchups. And that's sometimes what separates your top echelon backs from the guys that are that are fungible, that play a season then are gone. So I thought for the most part, just scheme wise and execution wise, that they did a good job of getting four or five situations where they got the running back on one guy.
Yeah, but usually it's supposed to be a DB. There were too many linebackers still running free for my liking, and you don't want the linebacker, unblocked, uncovered in this one. But Harris made a miss, and that's why I give Harris a ton of credit, because he was able to win those one-on-one tough battles against some good linebackers like Anthony Walker, and that was the big reason why he had the two longest runs of the night and of the season.
Well, I thought the first one was more impressive than the second one, quite honestly, because the second one, obviously, we would talk about was blocked up. I mean, Najee did have to get past the backfield.
Yeah, that linebacker came through. He didn't come in free, but I think he shed Hassenauer, I think it was, and then and forced Harris to make a miss.
Right. It was a penetrator. I don't think he was under control the way he probably wanted to be, but he still had to make that guy miss. So there was that. And then Watt got a 2-for-1. That the way, as we talked earlier in the show, the way Najee pressed that number 50 was more up towards the line of scrimmage. And look, they were selling out on that play anyway. So
sure.
Make one guy miss and you're to the house, type of run. So, and that's the way it's drawn up. It was executed and it got to the house. But I thought the first of the two runs, the 30-yarder, was the more impressive of the two runs.
Yeah, I would agree, because Walker had come in free there and the bounce. I just thought Harris showed more burst at kind of getting to that second level. I don't know if that was because it was a little bit cleaner for him or if he just slept really well or had a good diet or has found some sort of magical thing. But I just thought he kind of showed a little bit more explosion, both getting that second level and then on the 37-yard touchdown run, just the speed to run away from that last defender as well, just to finish that run, was notable.
Now do it again.
Yeah, and do it again and do it all next year as well. All right, Dave, any other thoughts here? I did just one other random piece of housekeeping. It looks like a report is the Wunderlift test is going away. The NFL is eliminating the Wunderlift test for the NFL draft process. So not that we've ever put too much stock into that, but, if looking for a quarterback, the Wunderlift usually gets talked about associated with that position a little bit at least. And so that test is no more.
I did make it back through some of that Manning cast last night. And Cowher talking about how that 2004 class were all experienced quarterbacks. That Manning, Rivers, and Roethlisberger all came into the NFL with a good understanding from an X's and O's background there. And I know this is old school. I know I referred to Parcells quite a bit, but I really think there is something to the whole, Parcells. Now, less so now because you have a lot more underclassmen coming out. So I don't know how you would adjust down quarterback wins and starts and those kind of things there. But I really think there's a lot to be said about more experience, in other words, underclassmen versus guys coming out with experience. And I think that's going to be another reason why Pickett winds up probably being the highest rated quarterback in this class because of that extra element there. I think that means a lot. I really think the underclassmen aspect, especially when it comes to quarterbacks, is undersold when it comes to the draft process there. So that's one thing that stuck out to me that Cowher had to say. Another guy that's got quite a bit of experience with starts and all coming in this class too is Carson Strong. Now, obviously he doesn't have the mobility that Pickett does, but I guess this kind of goes back to the Wunderlift there. I'm willing to bet your two smartest quarterbacks, if you were to rely on the Wunderlift test and have those results this year, which obviously we won't, would be one Kenny Pickett and Carson Strong.
Yeah. You just base that up. What is it with Strong? I mean, you've watched him more than I have. So what tells you that about Strong?
Man, just go watch one of his interviews. Go watch that interview about him talking about the air raid offense that's out there.
Okay.
And I obviously don't get a lot of time to do this because we're trying to do so much. We're trying to watch, 3 games on every guy, but I try to go especially if they're guys that I think the Steelers are attracted to, I try to go look some aspect of some of their interviews and hear them talk and see if they ask questions that give me some sort of sense of their X's and O's, understanding of the game and all like that. And it's hard to do, obviously. I mean, you're not going to go through 20 minutes of tape to find them answering certain X's, but it's something that I try to see sticks out, when I do look at some of these interviews with these kids. But I'm way ahead of myself right now in as opposed to any draft season, and specifically about the quarterback position this year, that I really truly believe that your two smartest quarterbacks in this class are Kenny Pickett and Carson Strong.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that all stems from that's one of the things that Bill Cowher that stuck out to me when he was talking about the class the other night.
Yeah, I think to Cowher's point about how, Rivers and Ben and Eli were all 4-year starters was part of the landscape of college football. As you mentioned,
right.
There were more underclassmen who declare, usually quarterbacks, if you're good, you're declaring, your junior year or something like that. I'll tell you this, though, Dave, for the quarterback class, this upcoming 2022 crop of guys, the Senior Bowl is going to be the place to be. And I'm so glad that we're going to get to be there. The quarterbacks that are going to be there, Sam Howell from North Carolina, who Pittsburgh's shown a fair amount of interest in this year, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong, and Bailey Zapp from Western Kentucky, I believe. And so that is going to be almost a who's list of quarterbacks. And I think you're going to see some proclamations about who's going to separate themselves down there in Mobile from that competition, who's going to be the guy that kind of rises above the rest. But at the least, you're going to get to evaluate most of the top names in this class.
Absolutely. And, maybe it's because I'm more up to speed with the class at this time of year, but I look at that. I've looked at that list and think, man, I mean, star-studded to me, at least when it comes. And now the totality of the class, I don't think's all that, to be quite honest with you. But,
sure.
But all the top names are there, so definitely going to be a great time for you guys to go down there and talk to some of these guys.
Yeah, we'll have at the Senior Bowl myself, Jonathan Heitrader, Tyler Wise, and Jacob Harrison, who will be contributing during the draft season portion of the season to Steelers Depot. And then we'll have a lot of guys at the Shrine Game. We'll have Josh Carney, Melanie Friedlander, Owen Straley. Is there anyone else going to the Shrine Game?
That's it. That's the list.
Okay. Well, pretty impressive star-studded list of our own, I would say, Dave. So any other thoughts here? Any other things you want to talk about, or do you want to get to reader emails and close out today's show?
Yeah, we can get to that. And I think we're going to try to, we'll see if we can get credentialed and all like that. But I think we're going to try to get Jonathan hightailed her to the combine this year as well too. So
okay, good. By the way, Ben speaking with the media, talking about Mason Rudolph and how I think the quarterback competition next year will be good for him. It'll be good for him to kind of have maybe a different mindset now that Ben's gone, and he'll be not competing to, I forget how Ben phrased it, but basically just said it'll be kind of a cleaner slate for Rudolph next year.
all right, let's get to the email thoughts for an article or podcast topic. The Steelers are not going to make the playoffs. This is from Jimmy, JM. The Steelers are not going to make the playoffs without a highly unlikely outcome in Jacksonville paired with a win of their own. Is it better to win the game and hope for a playoff spot, or is it better to lose? Which would you put them before the Ravens in the draft? And the opponents for next year would be Texans instead of Colts, loser Charger Raider instead of the winner, football team versus instead of Eagles. Man, some of you guys, if you spent the time that you spent worrying about some of that and started watching film, I hate to be blunt there, Jimmy. None of what you wrote I care about. How's that? Is that blunt enough? Is that mean? No, it's just I'm not worried about losing versus one higher spot versus who the team plays as an opponent next year. I got to be honest with you, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. It's that's funny that you mentioned that email, because my terrible take today basically addresses that topic. Anytime I posted over the last 2 weeks about playoff scenarios, what needs to happen, about 50%, if not more, the responses are, who cares? They don't deserve to make the playoffs. I don't want them to make the playoffs. They should lose and get better draft position. I will never root for this team to lose or not make the playoffs or not have a chance to make the playoffs. I just not wired that way. And you can try to play the big brain. What about the opponents? I think it's all pretty meaningless. I want this team to win. The whole goal is to win, to get in the playoffs. Life is better when the Steelers win in general, regardless whether or not they make the playoffs. And so
it's better for business too.
It's better for business too. So it's a little personal, professional.
Peel back that curtain and tell them everything, Alex.
That sounds like a trap. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, please don't. But look, I never had. I can't even remember pre-blogging thinking, man, I hope they don't make the playoffs for draft reason or schedule reason and all like that. Jimmy, it's not the way I'm wired. I don't think Alex is wired. I understand why people's minds maybe go that way. So I don't find fault in that. It's just nothing that I like to entertain as kind of meaningful discussion, to be honest with you.
And as I mentioned, the terrible take today, and I'm giving the whole thing away, so I guess no one's going to listen to it. But, I know Pittsburgh, if they were to make the playoffs, would be underdogs. But listen, in this COVID world, some team could lose their quarterback or their star guy or half their room the day before a game. And not that you're rooting for those things. And, of course, Pittsburgh could, be vulnerable to the same things happening. But this COVID world's crazy. And so a game where you think you're the underdogs, they lose a couple of guys, all of a sudden you might be the favorites. So, you can get in the playoffs, you never know what could happen. It's kind of the point.
Right, exactly. Anything can happen. Our buddy Sim Football Critic writes in, what's up, guys? Hope you both had a wonderful holiday and Happy New Year. Just a quick question regarding the Steelers 2022 quarterback. If the Steelers go to the free agency route, who do you expect them to be the most realistic target? I say realistic because I know you guys will look at all factors and not just fan favorites. He says, personally, I think the Steelers don't grab a free agent. Mason Rudolph will be the 2022 starter with or without drafted quarterback from the 2022 class. He says, like always, thanks for an amazing job. Look, Sim, we're going to be talking about that a ton here in the coming weeks. I don't think you can completely rule out Mason Rudolph being the 2022 Week 1 starter. I think if you go back several shows, I think that's the highest probability next to maybe a Mariota or something like that. I think those are 1-2 together there. Even if obviously if they do draft a quarterback, I don't think you're going to have a rookie Week 1 starter barring some sort of injury. So who will the most realistic target? I'll tell you who I don't believe is a realistic target. And I've said this all along. I am not buying all the Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson talk because those guys aren't even free agents right now. And B, I just don't see it happening there. So could it happen? Yes, it could happen just from a flat out could it happen aspect. I don't think it will happen, though, just from all the things I've talked about throughout this whole season. Unfortunately, have to address a lot of this there. Who is the most realistic? I don't know, Alex, is the same old list of names you spout out every other week, right?
And I get yelled at for it, so I'm not going to do it this time because everyone will yell at me.
Do it. Do it.
No. Again, it's the Mariotas, the Brissetts. Here's the picture I'm looking at. I think most of us agree, you and I, and probably most of Steelers Nation, it's going to be a veteran, not a rookie starting week one. That's a fair assessment to say, correct?
Somebody who has taken an NFL snap before. Yes.
Right. So probably, again, doesn't mean they can't draft a rookie, but probably won't be a rookie starting week one. And I think it'll be a veteran with mobility, someone that can move to some degree. Tomlin is almost obsessed about that word at times this year. And so I think it'll be a veteran with some degree of mobility. Now, who that'll be, that's still a pretty long list of candidates. I think Rudolph certainly is going to be in the mix as well. But I don't think he'll be the week one starter if you made me, answer that question right now.
I would still put him probably as probably the leader in the clubhouse right now.
You don't think they'll sign anybody? Because that essentially means like they're not going to sign anybody.
I think I still think that there is obviously I wouldn't put it at like 89% chance or whatnot, but I would put Mason right up there with a percentage of chance along with free agent as, potential best chance to be the week one starter. Now, obviously, once you get past week one, all bets are off. But if we're talking about probability factors and probability factors alone, I think Mason is somewhere, 25% probability that he's going to be the week one starter. And I would think somebody else not on this team, experienced quarterback would also be in the 25% category.
But if you were taking Mason Rudolph versus the field, would you still take Mason?
I think I would. I think I'd take Mason as far. And now this is going to get twisted into this is what Dave wants to happen.
Yeah. No, you love Mason Rudolph.
I do like. I do think the kid has been undersold throughout this. Now, do I think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback? No, no, I don't. I think you can win games with Mason Rudolph if you have a good defense. But you could say that about a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah, you're right.
If you have
a good run game, good defense, a lot of quarterbacks can play decent football.
Can win some games. There's something to them tying them up with that extension too. I think that to some degree is being undersold. So gun to my head right now, I like his chances of being the week one starter more than anything else right now.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's no chance. I mean, there's going to be that known quality to him that's going to be appealing. And if you had to pick a particular name, and what other name would you pick? It's the guy that's on the roster right now. But I do think it'll be a veteran and someone that can be more mobile. Because if you're going to have a quarterback who's not that great, just having a mobile skill set's going to help you kind of get out of bad situations. It'll open up the offense some more as well. So I think there's an attractive trait to a quarterback who can move when you don't have a franchise quarterback to begin with.
But and we're going to get asked this 80 more times during the offseason, I'm sure. And then there's every other week there's going to be the Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, people presenting it as news when it's only speculation. So get ready, folks, because that's what's going to dominate the offseason with us. Is will they draft a quarterback? Will it be Aaron? Or will they go after Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? And who do you guys think, if it's not those two, it will be?
Pretty much.
That's what the offseason is going to be for us, what it's going to look like.
Did you see that Kimberly, I think it was Kimberly Martin of ESPN, said that Russell Wilson, if she had to pick two teams Wilson would go to, would be, I think it was the Saints or the Steelers. That was did she expand on the Steelers at all?
No, it's just part of that, what Adam Schefter, I think, wrote up and all. Okay. It's all speculation, right? Nobody knows,
Sure.
And people just keep trying to shoehorn Aaron Rodgers, both those guys in there. Now, look, if given my druthers, I'd take Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson in a heartbeat. But I don't think either of those two things are going to happen, folks. It'd definitely be something to watch and see if either one of those two ended up being the guy. I just don't think it's going to happen for many of the reasons I've said all season long.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so either. I think Rodgers just stays in Green Bay. But if he is on the move, then I think it's a more interesting conversation to have with Rodgers than it will be for Russell Wilson.
Tom Leitenberger writes in, I hope the Steelers scouts are checking out Tanner McKee, quarterback at Stanford. I haven't watched a lick of tape on him there. Do you know who that is?
No, sorry, I do not.
I do not either. We will, let's see here. I got some nice spreadsheets up for you guys already, though, don't I? I got you guys ready for these all-star games already. Let's see if I can get to my next one here from Israel writes in, do you think the Jaguars will A, try to win for pride, B, try to lose to keep their draft pick, C, try to win to help the interim coach get the job? I can't imagine players not going out there and trying to win a game. I will leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, they have jobs. They want to compete and put on good tape for next year and just pride to win. And so I understand the instinct to say Jacksonville's not going to try, but what does that mean? Are coaches not going to coach? Are they not going to game plan? Are they not going to practice? Are players going to give up? I mean, I don't think any of those things are going to happen. So while it might be beneficial, it really is beneficial for the Jaguars, I suppose, to lose this game and lock up the first pick. I don't think it really changes how they're going to approach this week, both from a coaching or player standpoint.
Kane writes in from Wymore, NE. Is that Nebraska? Is NE Nebraska?
Yes.
Wymore, Nebraska. Thank you, David Knox, for your efforts this season. Kane's I haven't recognized that name before. Appreciate your insightful information. What is the contract status of Ahkello Witherspoon for next season? If he's a free agent, what would be your estimation on the cost to sign him? Kane, did you listen to the last podcast? Maybe you wrote this in before listening to that. We had a long discussion on potentially what Ahkello Witherspoon's value will be. So no sense to rehash that. He goes on to write, is Joe Hayden worth a hometown discount, a 1 or 2 year contract that allows him to finish his career as a Steeler? Have you and Alex ever considered a live stream show during a Steelers game, a la the Manning brothers broadcast? I think we've already kind of addressed the Joe Hayden aspect as well too. Look, if Joe Hayden wants to come back and play for $2 or $3 million, I mean, I don't think he will, but I don't think it's hard to say no to that from the risk aspect of it all. I think it's time to part ways. I don't think Joe Hayden has any interest for playing for that kind of money.
Yeah, I'd be worried if he did. I'd be like, wait, why do you want to take all of a sudden $2 million? What are you not telling me? Yeah, I don't think he's coming back just for other reasons we talked about before. And Witherspoon will be interesting to see how they handle that, what the money's ultimately going to be. But that's probably the cornerback to look at, which is a thought I did not think we'd be having, 8 weeks ago.
Ever considered a live stream during the Steelers game? No, not one bit. Maybe Alex has. I haven't.
I have a little bit. I think it'd be interesting and kind of fun to do. Obviously, I couldn't show the game for like copyright reasons, but with all the work that takes place, especially because like the winners loser article goes up as the clock hits zeros, and I promise you, I'm not that fast of a writer. I got to write that one kind of starting around halftime, and so I really probably wouldn't have a good show because you'd be just watching me type, and no one wants to see that.
I get distracted. I like really, to be honest with you, when the game's going on. It's the one kind of, and I get to live tweet that as well too. It's one it's a part of my week I look forward to the most, that and tape breakdown, because it's kind of a look. We all have our duties to do during the game, and I get distracted easily anyway. So I don't think I'd be as good during a live stream of the show that way. I mean, we've considered it. It just. For what we would get out of it, I think, and people would say, I'd listen, I'd watch, and I'm sure probably ratings of that would be pretty good, but it would end up kind of, I think, hurting what we do as far as overall quality before and after the game if we did something like that.
Yeah, certainly once the game ends, we have a lot of work to do. So I don't know, maybe some form of that could exist down the road, but there's no current plans for that.
Derek Dimmy writes in, have the Steelers got their value by spending a 5th round pick on Ahkello Witherspoon? I mean, a couple weeks ago, probably no, but I think they have now. He says also last year, Dave mentioned that Chris Wormley owed the Steelers some snaps. Does Witherspoon owe them snaps as well? What are the chances Witherspoon comes back? I think we've kind of answered that quite a bit, Derek, already in the last two shows. What does this market value look like? I think we've answered that in the last couple of shows as well, too, Derek. Hopefully you've listened to those. And a special thanks to Big Ben Roethlisberger for his 18 excellent years, he writes. Amen to that, Derek, from Wheeling, West Virginia, almost heaven. As far as owing snaps, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek what I was talking about with Wormley, because you had him early. You traded for him early in the offseason, which the Steelers did with Witherspoon as well, right? But I think kind of Wormley was on pace to play more than what he was going to play had it not be for, what did he have, a knee injury last year?
I think so.
There, and because of the aspect of that, he did kind of come on after he returned from that knee injury more so than what he did. It was all kind of tongue in cheek, I think, more about Wormley, and look, it was a good decision, I think, to bring him back, a guy that I expect to be on the roster next year. I mean, Witherspoon's in a lot different, or a little bit different situation. I think he's helped his value more this season than maybe Wormley helped his value last season. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, you're just happy he got out there for some snaps and was playing well, and you felt like you at least had the evaluation right on Witherspoon once he did play. And yeah, you'd like to bring him back, so it's not kind of a rental for the draft pick in a season where you probably won't make the playoffs. But if they bring him back, it's not going to be for free. Pay a lot of money there for those owed snaps, to use the quote there.
Yeah, and I appreciate people remember that, but I just was kind of having a lot of fun, with the Owen snaps kind of aspect of it there. Eloise Marks, hey guys, this might make for a better offseason nostalgia article than a podcast question, similar to the NFL all-time team. But if you're building a team with just Steeler players from Ben's time, 2004 to 2021, who do you got? Could be just the offense plus head coach and OC, or all 53 plus defensive coordinator if you're feeling ambitious. Might definitely make a very cool article sometime, though. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Maybe that's something we put David O on during the offseason or something. Maybe an all Roethlisberger era team or something along those lines there. So we'll throw that over to David O there. Question for Alex from Nick Shuley, writes in, I'm 28 and I think Alex is around the same age as me. How old are you, Alex?
28 in the body of a 75-year-old man.
Oh no, you
in the mind and soul. Maybe I'm an old man at heart for sure.
No, what you call that, an old soul?
Old soul, okay.
Not an old body. Just wondering if he happens to remember where he was and how he felt when the Steelers drafted Big Ben. Nick says, growing up in Southwest Ohio, Dad is from Pittsburgh near Oxford. I was thrilled. I remember being at my local Ace Hardware when my dad and hearing it on the radio in his 98 Chevy Blazer. Keep up the great work. Thanks for all you guys do. Do you remember where you were, Alex, when the Steelers drafted Big Ben, and what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I was thinking about that and how I used to watch drafts. I remember I would write down.
You were like 10, weren't you?
I was at 04. I was 11. Right, just about ready to turn 11, I think. I used to write down all the picks on just a little small scrap of paper, and I want to say I have a memory of that. I don't remember how I felt about that, though. I mean, I probably was excited because it was a quarterback, and I'm sure the highlights looked nice, and I probably had a similar excited feeling. But I really don't have a great or vivid memory of the 04 draft there. But not that it would have mattered much anyway, because my opinion would have meant a hill of beans back then. It doesn't mean a whole lot more yet either. But I don't have a great memory of the 04 draft.
I guess I've come to the realization over the years now that a lot of people that read and listen to us, Ben Roethlisberger is kind of really the only quarterback that they know, Yeah,
myself included.
And that's weird, because I grew up where Terry Bradshaw was the only quarterback that I knew, for a long time there. So that's It just goes to show, I guess, that I'm old is all it shows. But
then you got to know a lot of quarterbacks from Bradshaw
Yeah.
to Ben, and they weren't always either of those guys.
Yeah, fortunately, I had a drug habit
Yeah.
through a lot of
Mark
that.
Malone and Jovi had a drink.
Yeah, thankfully I had an alcohol problem throughout all that there. But it is kind of weird because I have to constantly keep reminding myself that Roethlisberger is the only quarterback a lot of people reading and listening know, and boy, are you guys in for a surprise coming up, because unless the Steelers get, they just don't grow on trees. So let me just leave it at that. Yeah,
Well
everybody
said,
think
yeah.
you just draft a quarterback, put him in there, and off you go. That ain't the way it works all the time. Anyway, that's a good jumping off point here. Let's see. On Friday, we'll have our buddy John Eisenberg, I think, on talking about the Ravens game, and we're going to kind of quickly trying to go from the Browns game to previewing the Ravens again in these next couple of days. A lot of great content, obviously, coming up on SteelersDepot.com in the next several days. The injury report be out today. Protected practice squad players one last time. Geez, what else you guys got coming up, Alex?
Jonathan Heitritter has a film room on Hassenauer coming up, and Ben's final trips on the injury report. So enjoy those DNPs next to Ben's name. That'll the last time it's happening.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button as well. Thanks to all of our contributors. As always, amazing work. Like 30-something posts up on the site, I think, yesterday. Just incredible work that I'm just very, very blessed to have people like Alex and Matthew and all the great contributors on the site. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.